Striker Scorpion 82 is now sponsored by Warhammer Combat Cards, a card battle game featuring your favourite Citadel miniatures from the 40k universe. Build your army decks, dominate opponents in player versus player action, collect and upgrade cards to fit your strategy, improve their power and unlock unique traits. Choose from all 40k factions, take part in campaigns based on iconic 40k battles, rise to the top of the leaderboard and win glory. Free to download and play, link is in the video description below or on the channel homepage, and by using the unique link it helps support the channel. Thanks and enjoy the game. Alright, so welcome to another how-to video. In this video here we'll be taking a look at how to enjoy Warhammer 40,000. So this applies to everyone in the hobby, whether you've just started getting into the hobby, been playing for a little while, or maybe you're a veteran of Warhammer 40,000, you've been playing through the various editions here. This advice really does apply to everybody. You can easily fall out of favour with the hobby, or just start the hobby and then drop out of it again quite quickly. So if you're not enjoying the hobby, then you're not going to last too long. And so this video is just some tips really of how you can get the most out of Warhammer 40,000 and how you can enjoy it the most. Because my current situation, and it's been this way since I've got back into 40k, which the channel's on about 9 years it's been running now, and I still enjoy Warhammer 40,000 as much as when I got back into it. So it hasn't really changed. You get sort of small ups and downs of it. You enjoy it a lot at some points, and then other points it dips a little bit, but it's been pretty consistent. I really have enjoyed the hobby and continue to enjoy it despite the new additions, codex changes and so on. I still enjoy the hobby, so I'm going to try and share some tips with you of how you can enjoy 40k as well. So these are tips that have helped me out with my own hobby down through the years. It's been I've been playing. I sort of got into 40k at 2nd edition, and then didn't play 40k through 3rd or 4th, and then got back into it with 5th edition, then 6th, 7th, and then 8th, 9th edition. So I've been playing for a good number of editions of the game. So this is my own advice. Check out the comment section below, see what other experienced 40k players are saying, if they enjoy the game and why, what helps them to enjoy 40k. So it's not just my advice here, but I'd encourage you to check out the comment section. And if you're enjoying the hobby and you've been playing 40k for a while, then leave your own comments and feedback for others to see as well. So I've got a good number of points here in no particular order. I'll just run through these and explain them as we go along. It's not just one reason why I enjoy 40k, it's multiple things, and perhaps there's areas where you're lacking in your own hobby, and some of these tips are just designed to try and help you out and just to get the best out of the game. So number one is, this is pretty big. I've literally just finished playing a game of 40k with Tom KOYO. He's away home, and then I thought I'd film this game just here, and it was a very enjoyable game of 40k. So what made it enjoyable was point number one, amongst other things, but point number one is aim to have fun and not to win. Aim to have fun and not to win. So I tried to win the game, obviously, but that wasn't the be-all and end-all. It wasn't the ultimate aim of us playing 40k. The ultimate aim was to have fun. And there's multiple things that make a game fun. Nicely painted models, models that you like, as both of us playing factions that we like. The scenario was really good, the terrain looked great, and then both of us just doing our utmost to try and win the game. But at the same time, both of us aiming to make sure it was an enjoyable time. So it was an exceptionally enjoyable game, and so I think what helped with that is that we tried to make that the main aim. Not I must beat Tom no matter what, and Tom's not playing, I must just beat Luke. That's the whole reason why we're playing the game. No, it's instead we're aiming just to have a good, fun game of 40k. And if you make that your aim, then more often than not you'll have fun, because that's what you've aimed for, over and above trying to beat the opponent. I really wouldn't get much joy out of playing a miserable game of 40k and yet still winning. Some people do, perhaps they just have to win at all costs. But if you know people like that just have to win every game that they play, they never really seem to be enjoying themselves. Enjoyment is when you're having fun, and then your opponent's having fun at the same time, and you see that they're having fun, and then it sort of works both ways. And so that's point number one, is to aim to have fun over and above winning the game. That doesn't mean to say you build the best list that you can, you choose your units that you think are going to work the best, and then you try your utmost in the game, use all the cunning and tactics and stratagems and so on, but still you want to walk away from that saying, yeah, that was a good game of 40k. And so that's one of the big points, one of the main points, is just to aim to have good fun. At the same time, you can be as competitive as you wish, but and things that can ruin games is things like arguments and stuff. If you've got two players that can quickly come to a resolution, you go through the rules, you do the best that you can, and then just quickly make a resolution, and then be happy just to sometimes concede that the decision doesn't go your way. Just kind of agree on a point and then just quickly move on. I mean, the 40k rulebook says, talks about that in the rules as well. The aim is to have fun. Don't get stuck on a particular rule, especially if it's like a small rule, but try and resolve it quickly and then just move on. And don't get hung up and stuck on points. The game, you get a little point out of the way and you're able to move on with the game, and just not get stuck as well. That can make a big difference, because an argument can just spoil an entire game if that happens. Just be the kind of player that'll just be happy just to concede on a small point so that you can just move on. And you can still go ahead to win the game, regardless of any small decisions that don't really go your way. So aim for fun, and more often than not, you'll not be disappointed. So aim to have fun. I'm going to move on to the second point. The second point is use your imagination. So 40k is all about using your imagination, and try and immerse yourself in that to get the most enjoyment out of the hobby. So this 40k has such a depth of lore and storyline. Your imagination should be able to run right through the hobby. Even when you're playing the game, you're trying to imagine the situation like almost a film that's going on. Epic battle scene that takes place, and the game generates that as you go along. You could never script it and plan it. The way scenarios work out, epic character one-on-one battles. In our game that we played, I had two vehicles, one after the other, explode. 40 mortal wounds dealt out to friend and foe alike. I mean, you can't script that kind of thing for that game that we've just played. And so that can bring massive enjoyment when you immerse yourself in your own imagination. As you're putting your army together, you're imagining what it'd be like in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, the storyline, the background to your story. Some people create their own Space Marine chapters and they put out a whole lore and background story for it. That kind of thing is really enjoyable when you can immerse yourself in the hobby. You're not just buying models and just playing them for the sake of trying to beat someone. I mean, I can't see how you can have much enjoyment with that. But when you immerse yourself in the hobby, it's such a deep, immersive hobby, and you're using your imagination, and the artwork is there to really feed your imagination as well. The fantastically sculpted models, and so there's plenty of food for your imagination to feed on. And so try and make that your aim as well. Use your imagination, collect stuff that you're inspired by, invent. Don't go on Google and copy lists that everyone else has done. I try and search for I enjoy doing it. I avoid Google and what everyone else is trying to build. I enjoy researching, going through a codex and coming up with my own combinations, and often you'll stumble upon combinations that work really well without having to try and copy and paste them from somewhere else. And so immerse yourself in the hobby and focus on your imagination, and that's a very, very, very rewarding part of the hobby. And it can be for your models, painting up your models, colour schemes, the terrain that you're using. You get a nice set of terrain, work on that, and it's a fantastic backdrop for your models as well. Appreciate the artwork, storyline, the sculpting the models and so on. All of that is great, and use your imagination. That's a massive part of the hobby as well. And even when I'm playing a game of 40k, trying to win the game, trying to think of tactics, but at the same time sometimes you just have to stop the game and just say, wow, that is what's just happened is you can imagine it taking place in a Warhammer 40,000 big budget movie, something that's just happened, an epic character showdown, which we've had a good number of those in our recent battle reports. One of them playing against James, I'd painted up and I got my Swarm Lord ready, the Decapitator, and I painted that model up just to take on Rabute Gilliman, and then we got to play that game, and then the fight that happened, it's here on YouTube, the battle report, Ultramarines versus Tyranids. Yeah, and the battle that took place between those two armies, and those two characters did clash, and it was just epic Hollywood stuff that took place, you know, and your imagination's just really running riot during that close combat, the multiple close combats that took place. So imagination is a big thing. So that is point number 2. So point number 3 really flows from point number 2, and that is use units, models, and armies that you like. So you're not being badgered or pressured into. Yeah, you can end up pressurizing yourself. You can go and research the top army, and you say, right, I've got to paint this, this, and this to get the best army. But I can't see where's the enjoyment in that. Instead, you know, I go through Codex, and you love the look of certain units. For example, this model here, just painted up. It's the new Necron Overlord. Perhaps not the strongest model, but the model's fantastic. I mean, beautiful model. So I just have to put him into my list. The people said, you know, you need to drop him, save the points, you don't need him. But I'm going to try and put him into my list, try and make him work, because the model's just utterly incredible. Beautiful model. It's part of the Indomitus box set. So I really want him in the list. And so trying to use units and models that you like. You know, some people may struggle with that because you're trying to build a list, you're taking to a tournament, and you really want it to perform well. But and just wondering, sometimes you can be disappointed. You build a list that you feel pressured that you should build, and then you don't do too well anyway, and then your joy's stolen, perhaps because you've dragged along an army that you don't really particularly like. So, you know, a big reward is when you've painted up models and units, and you have an army that you like, and then it does well. It's just a double bonus. So, encourage you to do that. You know, and perhaps hardcore tournament players, a lot of the points I'm going to come out with, perhaps you don't agree with them as much. But this one here as well, try and pick units and armies that you like, because you'll enjoy painting them more. You'll enjoy seeing them in your army, and it'll be great reward as well when they actually do something constructive in your list. You never know, you could take a unit that's not popular, and you could make it work, and silence the critics perhaps as well. So go for stuff that you like. You know, when you're choosing an army, try and choose an army that you like, and then within that army, take models and units that you really like as well, and try and make them work, and that can be a really rewarding and enjoyable part of the hobby as well. Okay, so point number 4, and this is quite big, this could be make or break for your hobby, and that is, number 4 is to avoid hobby burnout if you can. I mean, it can happen just unexpectedly at times, but avoid hobby burnout if you can. And that hobby burnout can happen in all sorts of different ways. Sometimes it can be where, as I already talked about, you're painting up stuff and using models and units that you don't particularly like, and perhaps you're feeling pressured from yourself or from other people to be taking these units. That can just become tedious, and it can put you off painting stuff, and before you know it, you're actually burnt out and actually fed up with the hobby. So really, the hobby's there for you to enjoy, and so to counter that, for example, I haven't painted models for a couple of weeks, and I've got multiple factions at 16, 17 armies on the go, and I thought, how am I going to get back to painting again? So I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint what I want to paint, and so it was Necrons. Just love the models. The new Codex came along, a bit of hype, and wanting to make progress with those. So, and I know Necrons are quite a fast army to paint up, so I had a big painting evening and got a load of models done, and it's exceptionally enjoyable. It really was great, and to see results very quickly as well. So I painted up. The Scorpec Lord is already finished. We've got the Warden painted up in an evening. Took about an hour and a half to do him, and then an hour and a half to do the new Overlord as well. Finished off my Scorpec Destroyers. Got halfway painting through a Canoptic Reanimator as well. So, you know, it was a good evening. Good models lined up. Had a couple of documentaries to watch as I was painting up. So, you know, I'm getting stuff watched, painting models at the same time. And it was an enjoyable evening. And it's models that I like, an army that I like, painting colour scheme that I like. And so, all was good. So, you know, I was trying to recover from a bit of burnout there, and I just, with the hobby, just chose to do something I really liked. and you know, I've got them done, they're finished, and now I'm looking to build and construct and paint up some more units to really do a massive overhaul of my Necron army and to inject a load of new units. So I'm enjoying that part of the hobby at the moment. Your hobby, you know, things are going to shift. I'll be painting one thing at one point and then moving on to other bits as well, just moving things around, but really just trying to find your enjoyment of going by stuff that you like, and that can help you avoid hobby burnout. Another thing that can burn you out of the hobby is doing too much stuff. So playing too many games, too many tournaments, too much stuff on your painting desk, things piled up, and then it becomes almost like an impossible hill to climb, and then you just give up, and that's when your burnout can occur, and then you find yourself not painting things for months on end, can't be bothered to play games of 40k, and then that's when hobby burnout can occur. So try not to let yourself get too piled up with things to do. So you may say, right, I'm going to give up this particular faction, don't really like it anymore, just sell the stuff and then get back to what you like. Cut out games of 40k, maybe skip a few tournaments just to avoid burning out of the hobby. There's things like that you can do just to cut back on things. Clear your painting desk. So all those models that you've got stacked up that you think, well, if I have them on my desk, it'll force me to paint them. Just clear them away, put them away in boxes, and clear your painting desk. I found that psychologically is quite a good thing to do. Box up your half-painted models and just get them out of your sight. And do it that way. You know, these models I painted, they weren't sat on my painting desk. I had to go and find them, and it was like they came out fresh, and then I cracked them out and got them painted up nice and quickly. So you know, there's a psychological aspect. So don't get overwhelmed, because that can lead to hobby burnout quite quickly. So clear your painting desk, and then just try and start fresh, perhaps with a unit that's hidden away or something new to get done. Because you know, you have to be so. I have to watch it with hobby burnout because I've got a hobby and then doing a YouTube channel, and there's 16, 17 armies. Burnout can come very easily. Got to be careful. So people have asked me and said, "Are you going to do Age of Sigmar?" And I know if I do, hobby burnout. It could, you know, if I start a whole new gaming system, new factions, new models, I know I'll burn out. I wouldn't be able to cope with it. So I'm sure Age of Sigmar's in an enjoyable game, but I wouldn't enjoy it because I'd feel sort of pressured by other people to do the models and to learn the rules, and then I don't really want to collect it, so I'd feel that I'm being pushed into it and it's not something I'm enjoying, and I could just get burnt out with that, and then too overwhelmed. You know, 40k and Age of Sigmar and stuff. So at the moment, Warhammer 40,000 is enough for me, and that hopefully will help me stop hobby burnout. And then trying to do too much stuff, so I've got lots of different units here and there, but I'm just going at my own pace, and trying not to put pressure on myself, because I know that if too much pressure, and then you can just burn out. And maybe you're burnt out at the moment, you haven't painted models for months on end, 40k has just been pushed to the fringe. Well, it's difficult to get back at times, but I just took an Ocean one evening and said, right, I'm just going to have a hobby evening, and whatever, of all the models I've got, you know, all these different factions, it was these that I wanted to paint. It was these models I liked the most, and so I grabbed hold of them and painted them up, and that's just catapulted me back into enjoying painting models again. So I encourage you to do the same thing. Instead of going for what you need to get done, paint a model that you want to paint, and then that can be a catalyst to help you recover from hobby burnout. So that's point number 4. Avoid hobby burnout. If you can, it'll steal your joy or ruin the hobby for you. So try and watch out for it, and try and see it coming ahead of time, and take your preventative measures. Don't get overwhelmed with too much stuff. Keep your hobby nice and clear. Keep painting models and so on that you like, and all those things to try and help avoid hobby burnout. Then number 5, this is pretty good for enjoying the hobby. Not just focusing in on yourself, but try to appreciate other hobbyists. So take the time to, you know, there's someone else at the club that's playing 40k, and take the time to go over to their table and have a look at their army and just give them some feedback and encourage them, and you know, be inspired by what that other hobbyist is currently doing. I try and make a point of doing that. Someone brings an army along, someone perhaps don't even know at the club, and then try and go over and have a look at their army, watch a little bit of their game, you know, and chat and talk about the units that they like, and say to them, that's a really good painting, I really like the way you've painting that model up, or that's a good combination, and those kind of interact with our hobbyists and trying to appreciate their hobby as well. I remember being at Warhammer World, and then there was a game going on. Two guys are playing. One had Katachan Jungle Fighters, and he was playing against Harlequins. And so I was thinking about getting my Harlequin units painted up. I just went over and just stood at the side, just watched them play for about 15-20 minutes, and then when the guy stops the Harlequins, just sounds a really nice Harlequin army, and just tried to appreciate someone else who's in the hobby. And so that's very enjoyable when you actually take the focus away from your own enjoyment and appreciate others. You know, you can encourage other people, and then you actually find yourself enjoying taking a moment to consider what other hobbyists are up to. So that's another enjoyable part of the hobby for sure. Even other tournaments. I've been to other places where historical games have been played. I went to a big historical ancient Warhammer Ancients tournament, and the armies that people brought along were incredible. So I just took time to go around all the armies and to have a look at what people have done, and so that can be a massive inspiration and a chance for you just to take your eyes off your own army. You've spent hours and hours getting ready, and just take a moment to appreciate what others have done. So that's a big point, and a great way of enjoying the hobby as well. So point number 6 leads on from this one, and that is the War Games community has brought a lot of joy to my hobby. I don't think I would last if I was on my own, just collecting Warhammer 40,000 with no one to play with and nowhere to go, and that's just, I can't imagine I would have been able to carry on. I know that's not always possible for people. Some people are completely isolated in the hobby, and all they have is just themselves to collect models, and there's no one to play against, and so it makes things very difficult. But for most of us, there is some kind of avenue somewhere where there is a community where you can join in with games. It may be just two of you, yourself and a friend. When I got back into Warhammer 40,000, James, my brother, and myself got back into 40k at the same time. I played 2nd edition when I was at secondary school. James was very young at the time, and then coming back round to 5th edition, we both got into the hobby. James with his Ultramarines to start off with. He loved the colour scheme, wanted to paint those up, and my first time getting back in at 5th edition was the Tau Empire, and so both of us got into 5th edition at that point. So there's the two of us together, and I remember both of us, we first got back into it, we were building models, and then we had the rule book, and we sat up in the loft and just I had a unit of Tau Fire Warriors, James had a tactical squad. It's literally how we got back into the hobby, and then models weren't even painted, and then we were just rolling up dice to try and figure out the rules, both of us trying to learn together at the same time, and that journey's continued for the last 9 years or so. So, me and James buddying up together, and bouncing off each other with the hobby, both of us making progress and both of us playing games. But another huge aspect to that was a wider community, and that was our local War Games club, SSWG. You go there, we were already playing historical games as well, playing 40k. There were other people at the club playing 40k as well. So community is a big thing. You get to play games against a variety of people with different armies, different combinations, and enjoying those games. We started a league at the club, so all sorts of people joining in with that as well. So your interaction with other people, and combining that with the other points that we've talked about already, aiming to have fun and not to win, is a huge thing where you can enjoy yourself as you play games of Warhammer 40,000 as part of a community, not just focusing on yourself, but trying to be part of a community. And so within that community, you want to try and get on with people and not to fall out. No one enjoys massive arguments and stuff over games, and so try and see yourself as part of a community and aiming to have fun. And so if you get a good group of guys, you don't argue about stuff, you have a variety of armies, you appreciate each other and your own collections and so on. You take a moment to appreciate what other people are collecting. Tom, we played a game this evening. Tom had painted up some new units. I took a moment to go around and have a look at his brand new models and say, yeah, those are amazing, which they were brilliantly painted up. And so that's a huge part of the hobby, appreciating other players and appreciating the wider community. And if you can keep your your aspect wide and appreciate others, then that leads to a lot of enjoyment as well. So community, massive enjoyment from, you know, SSWG War Games Club, great group of guys. They build their own terrain. There's a massive variety of games that go on, and you know, people aim to have fun, and so that brings a lot of enjoyment. So that's all the points so far. I've got one more point after this here, but it's the whole point of this video is to brainstorm some ideas and talk about ways where you can get the most enjoyment out of your hobby. So aim to have fun and not to win at all costs. There's some players out there that just have to win all their games, and more often than not, they're not happy in their hobby. They're just playing for the thrill of winning. And you know, I've played games where there's been times where I've thrashed people in games occasionally. They've been the least enjoyable battles. The opponent's not having fun. They're just removing all their models from play, and you're winning without any particular effort. And so there's no enjoyment in that. The most enjoyable games have been the closest games of 40k that we've played. So aim to have fun and not to win at all costs. Then use your imagination, immerse yourself in the lore of the hobby, the artwork, the sculpting of the models, and use your imagination even during a game, imagining what it'd be like if it was like a 40k film, different scenes that take place. Sometimes you just get epic moments that are generated organically by the game itself, so take a moment to enjoy that. Then thirdly, use units and armies and paint up models that you like, especially if you're trying to get back into the hobby or recover from hobby burnout, like I did with my Necrons just here. Then avoid burnout, so don't overdo it, don't collect too much stuff, don't stack up loads of, you know, don't be unrealistic with your targets. Clear your painting desk, all these different psychological things. Take a break from tournaments if you need to. So those things can be used to help burning out with the hobby. I've known people that burnt out because they've been into 40k and then they've actually worked for a company that sells 40k stuff, and they burnt out from the hobby because they were spending all day packing boxes full of Space Marines and posting them out, and the last thing they wanted to do was to go to War Games Club that evening or to go home and paint models that they've been packing all day long. So be careful with that you don't overwhelm yourself and then you actually burn out from the hobby entirely. So avoid burnout if you can. Appreciate others, appreciate other people's armies, models, and just dedicate a bit of time just to take your focus off of yourself and appreciate what others are up to and what they're doing. And then as the Warhammer community, there's a lot of enjoyment available in a good War Games Club, a good group of friends, a bit of garage hammer where you've got a garage, a few friends come around, and you can have an enjoyable evening with all those previous points that we've talked about. So appreciate the community and try and put the effort in, try and be a good role model in the Warhammer community as much as you can. And then the last point is, because this could steal your joy as well as your money, be wise with your money. Be wise with your money. It can be miserable when you blow loads of money in the hobby, which is so easy to do, and then that can just make it a miserable experience. So be as wise as you can with it. Think carefully before you spend out on anything to do with the hobby. Don't just throw money at stuff and then regret it later on. So that's being cautious with your purchases. So it's exceptionally rare that I've ever bought an entire army. I usually build it up gradually, try and get into the habit of buying a couple of units, get them painted up, using them in games, and then move on. Because your choices are going to change, your lists are going to change. So it's very rare that I've gone out and bought a whole army, spent £400-500 on an army. I don't think I've ever really done that at all. It's just been a gradual build up. So just being cautious with what you're buying. And it also means just avoiding hype trains. And you know, you've got to get 3 of these, everyone's getting them, and you go out and get them, you just feel that you've been badgered and pressured into buying those units, and there's no enjoyment in them, and you end up wasting a load of money. So be careful with that. Be wise with your you can do things like selling spare bits, selling kits that you're not using, a project perhaps you've given up on, sell the stuff and move it on. So try and regain a little bit of money as well. Even things like spare bits from sprues, you can actually sell those on quite effectively on places like eBay and get a bit of money back. Books that are out of date or going out of date, just sell them and move them on. I'm in quite a habit of doing that as well. And it means it's just cutting down on the cost of the hobby also. So it's those kind of things, just being wise with your funds, because it's not enjoyable when you're spending out loads and loads of money and it's being done needlessly. So instead, just try and be as wise as you can with your funds, and a hobby that's you're running it well and efficiently on sort of a money level, then that helps keep it enjoyable as well. So that's pretty much all the things I can think of for enjoying the hobby, and combining all those things together. I'll summarise them one more time. So aim to have fun and not to win at all costs. And if you keep, that's a huge thing. The game that I just played with Tom, I just thought it was going to have an enjoyable game. It's a brilliant combination. Red Scorpions fighting against my Thousand Suns, and the aim was to have fun, and it was. I won't tell you the result, but the game was excellent, very enjoyable, whatever the result was. Then secondly, use your imagination, immerse yourself in the hobby when it comes to building and painting models, the codexes, the lore, the artwork and so on. Really try to let your imagination run riot with the hobby. Then thirdly, try and paint models, units, armies that you like, you're drawn to. Try and go for those if you can, and then make them work in your games. Then fourthly, avoid hobby burnouts. Don't burn out with a hobby. Don't get overwhelmed doing too much stuff, because that can steal your joy. Then fifthly, appreciate others. Take time to appreciate what others are up to and their modelling and painting and so on, and their armies that they have. Then sixthly is Warhammer community, and the war gaming community in general. So find a decent war games club if you can. It's well worth doing. A good group of friends. It's worth investing the time and making the effort to have an enjoyable time with them. And then lastly, be wise with your funds. Don't blow out tons of money, which you can easily do with the hobby, but be as wise as you can, and that means that you won't be miserable because you've blown tons of money on things that have been a waste of your time. So combining all those things together, I really hope those tips help you out and help you find enjoyment with your hobby, just to max it out as much as you can, because it's an exceptionally enjoyable hobby. It really is. You can have a really bad day at work and you can have a lot of bad stuff happen to you during the day. You can come home, get your painting stuff out, and then paint up some models, and then you can go to sleep and say, yep, I had a bad day, but I got my Necron Overlord painted up, and so at least that was a good part of the day. Or you can have a really bad day at school, or at college, or at work. You go and play a game of 40k in the evening and you just have an absolute blast playing a fantastic game of 40k. It was really close, both enjoyed it, brilliant armies, good friends, and so that can bring about a lot of joy as well. And even I've had emails from people who've been painting up models, and they've perhaps struggled with depression and different troubles that they've had, and they've said, well, just sitting down and painting up models has been a real help. So there's all sorts of ways to have enjoyment with the hobby, and so I hope this video has been a help. Check out the comment section below, see what other experienced Warhammer 40,000 players are saying. They might have some tips that I've missed, or some unique ideas to bring enjoyment to the hobby from their own experience. But I hope the videos help. Keep a lookout for more how-to videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.